All right, good morning, community. So excited for this conversation with Nicole. She's one of the coaches at ASU for the women's program. I'm so thankful to have her on. For all of you that are joining the Lacrosse Leadership Institute for the first time, lacrosse has played such a huge part of my life and so many others. We want to make sure that we're sharing our stories, sharing the tangible skills you gain from the sport, and how it affects you beyond your playing career. So, Nicole, I'd like to start by asking you, how'd you get involved in lacrosse? Why are you still involved? Share a little bit more of your lacrosse story with us, please.
Well, first of all, thank you so much for having me on. I appreciate all that you're doing for the sport, and this is just a great platform to speak. But just to get into a little bit about my story, I come from a big family, so I'm one of six. My older sister and I kind of did a lot of things together growing up. She's 2 years older than me. So when a lot of our town was transitioning to lacrosse, it was starting to get introduced when I was about fourth grade. All of us played soccer, basketball, and softball actually in the spring because lacrosse is a spring sport out east. And a lot of them started to play lacrosse, and my older sister Erin wanted to try. So of course I'm following in her footsteps. I wanted to try. Then once I picked up a stick, I threw down my mitt, and my life's been changed ever since. My main sport growing up was soccer, but like I mentioned, once I picked up that lacrosse stick and saw the opportunities that I had moving forward in not only academics but in life, I couldn't put the stick down. So basically, since fourth grade and on, I fell in love with the sport and was completely all in from there.
Awesome. And just to piggyback off of you saying you saw the opportunities moving forward with lacrosse compared to soccer, can you elaborate a little bit about that and what you were thinking about?
Yeah, so I have always wanted to play soccer, or I always wanted to play soccer in college. I either wanted UNC or Notre Dame. Those were kind of the top schools growing up. You always watched them on TV. I followed them in length, loved the USA national women's soccer team since I was a young kid. So I always had aspirations to do that. However, the opportunities that I was given in the lacrosse sport, in contrast to soccer, there's just way more opportunities, and there were way more opportunities to play at the Division I level. It wasn't as competitive to get in for lacrosse, and I had the ability to go to a school that was more academic than I would have probably gotten into without the sport. So that was also a plus. I was looking at a couple Ivy League schools, which I wasn't an unintelligent kid in high school, but the sport of lacrosse definitely got a foot in the door, or even the ability to potentially go to those Ivy League schools. So definitely had a lot of opportunities to branch out and go to a university playing lacrosse versus soccer. There were limited chance playing soccer just based on the competitive pool of athletes moving forward and wanting to get to that next level.
And that is such a cool thing. I continue to hear over and over again. It sounds like you had that exact same experience of using the sport to leverage and get into a school of your dreams. And again, the caliber of student is so different from person to person, but awesome that you got that opportunity. What would you say is your pinnacle in lacrosse right now, your favorite moment that you've experienced so far?
Ooh, favorite moment in lacrosse. I would say making it to the Final Four my freshman year of college. So I played at the University of Florida, very similar to ASU actually. When I was a freshman, it was their third year in existence playing at the Division I level. And just to have the opportunity to play in a Final Four game was unmatched. I mean, that's what you work for. That's one of the biggest stages in our sport. Even though we did end up losing that game, unfortunately, that kind of I've always backtracked onto that in my brain, and even kind of just encouraging our student athletes when they are on the field. Obviously, the workouts aren't always the most fun to do. They can actually be tiring and hard a majority of the time, but it's that work that you're putting in then to get to that level. And just when I was playing in that game, just I looked back after it, and again, unfortunately lost, but I look back and you really rack your brain and remember the hours you put in August, the hours you put in even in June, July, when you're not even at your university, and it's all independent workouts, and using that internal motivation to remember hey, we want to get back to the Final Four. We want to ultimately win a national championship. So this work we're putting in now is to get us to there. So I think playing that Final Four, and I think just having the third year as a program getting there was phenomenal, not only for us as a team, but I think just our university, and credit all Mandy O'Leary for leading that charge. She was my head coach. But I would definitely say that's my favorite memory, even though it was a loss. You learn from a loss, so definitely moved forward in my career after that.
What would you say is your biggest takeaway from that, or from lacrosse in general, that's impacted your life beyond your playing? I guess you're still playing now, right?
Yeah, well, the season was technically canceled this summer, but yes, the WPL. I would say biggest takeaway from that is obviously you play to win. I'm competing every day to win, whether it's a card game, whether it's chess, whether I'm in my backyard playing one-on-one basketball with one of my brothers. I always want to win. But I think you actually learn more from a loss than you do from a win. A win, you did a lot of things correctly. You scored more than your opponent, so you ultimately got the W. But at the end of the day, I think you learn more and you take more away from a loss than you do from a win. So I think that's definitely the biggest lesson that I learned. Granted, being a freshman in college, that was a little harder to learn at the time, and the sting has stayed with me however many years that's been, since 2012, so 8 years. But like I said, you learn more from a loss than you do from a win. So I think that's the biggest lesson I took from that.
Sounds like you still have a little bit of a chip on your shoulder. That's
Sure. Never lose it. Never lose that.
What would you say are your big goals right now in life and in lacrosse?
Biggest goals in life in lacrosse, I would say lacrosse specifically, definitely the grow the game out west. Being from New Jersey, it's a big difference being in New Jersey and growing up here and knowing how it was for even my middle school, for my high school. And then once I moved to Arizona, actually in August of last year, we really got I would say a rude awakening on how different it was. For those of you that don't know and who are watching this, lacrosse isn't even a sanctioned high school sport in Arizona, which kind of blew my mind just to hear. So I think the biggest goal is just to grow the game, give those girls the opportunities and the abilities that I had at their age. And I think the sport of lacrosse is so powerful. A lot of people are playing soccer, basketball, field hockey, but lacrosse is one of the fastest growing sports on 2 feet. It's one of the fastest sports on 2 feet in general. And I think the PLL is doing a great job of actually broadcasting that to the wider nation. And a lot of their championship series games are on NBC, just to broadcast that. But I think the biggest goal right now is just to grow the sport in Arizona. I want those kids to have the same opportunities that I had moving forward in their lives. And not only that, but I think sport in general teaches you so many things about life. It's teamwork. Hard work can get you a long way. I don't think there's any substitute for hard work and dedication to whatever it may be, whether it's lacrosse, whether it's a science class, whatever it may be. There's no substitute for hard work. And that's also something my mom always ingrained in us growing up. So just growing the sport of lacrosse out in Arizona, and like I said, giving those kids the opportunities that I had, I think would be amazing. Plus, not to mention, we're kind of in a destination state where people want to come to us. So maybe down the line, having some lacrosse tournaments come out there, just having other teams from all over come to us to play instead of always going to the East Coast. I think that would be pretty neat.
I think that would be terrific, especially if there's some early spring games where it's still snowing or really cold in some places.
Yeah.
Everyone should be fighting at the bit to want to get out to us and have some really cool games. Can you share a little bit more about your experience growing up with lacrosse and what lacrosse looks like on the East Coast, so that those in Arizona have a better idea of what you mean by your experience with lacrosse?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, for sure. So I started about fourth grade, I would say, like I mentioned before, and we had a travel team called Chester Mendham. So Chester, I grew up in Mendham, New Jersey, and Chester's the neighboring town. So we had a team put together of kids from both of those towns, and then we would play a bunch of towns in the area. So it was like a fourth grade travel team, so to speak. And then I also, once I got into high school, so fast forward a couple years, we had a club team called Steps Lacrosse, which not only I had the ability to play for, but I also had the ability to coach for, because the two people that started Steps Lacrosse, Charlie Schulberg and Jess Schulberg, I actually played for Jess Schulberg in high school. So she was my high school coach at the time. She was actually part of the inaugural class at Notre Dame. So she played at Notre Dame. So she has a wealth of knowledge of lacrosse, as does Charlie. So I not only played for them at the club level, but I also coached for them. So started coaching lacrosse back then as well, which obviously I got the coaching bug, loved doing it, and have been doing it ever since. But so we had those travel teams, and then we also had club teams where you would travel down to Maryland, you would travel to New York, play other club teams. And then it kind of grew from there. I played in high school at Mendham High School, had the ability to compete in state championships, which was amazing opportunity as well. And then how it kind of worked in my town and just in our county in general, and I would say in New Jersey, is you watch the people above you become successful at the next level. So a lot of girls were going Division I. I know in particular, there's this one girl named Jane. She actually played at Notre Dame, and I kind of idolized her from afar. She was about 5 or 6 years older than me, but she played at the next level, was extremely successful at Notre Dame. So I wanted to be very similar. There's girls from my town going to UNC, Northwestern, you name it. And you just want to play at the highest level. You're a competitor. You want to compete every day. And you're playing against them in the high school level, and you ultimately want to get to that next level. So it was kind of like a step ladder going up. You started with the travel back in the elementary, middle school days. Then you played on your middle school team, which was extremely competitive. You played against neighboring towns as well. And then you get to the high school level, the club scene, and lacrosse is ingrained in your blood from then on. I mean, I turned in the soccer cleats for lacrosse cleats in the summers in high school, which was a big step for me, and that was a tough step. But at the end of the day, the opportunities in lacrosse are unmatched to that in soccer. And like I said, the pool for getting recruited is smaller, and you have a really unique ability to play at the next level. So I just took that and ran with it. Ended up going to the University of Florida, spent 5 years there, had a redshirt year, spent 5 years there, and then ever since then I've been in the coaching world, and again, I've loved it. I'm never going to give it up.
I love hearing that, Nicole. That's such a fun story, and it really shows how, from a very early age, fourth grade, you guys have the community that you're able to be a part of. You're able to continue to build and have that person who's 5, 6 years ahead. I think these mentors, or just idols, if that's who they are, really set the stage. And if you have the same activity, you can set the bar there, and you can dream. I was speaking with Pat yesterday, and he talked about one of the most important things is having an imagination and writing down goals. And to me, this is a very similar conversation in terms of just seeing what someone else is doing and moving forward. How did you make this transition from playing to coaching and now being an assistant coach on a premier Division I program, or a rising Division I program?
So I graduated 2016 from University of Florida, like I mentioned, and I think just having the connections in the lacrosse world, the relationships. I went through a couple of assistant coaches, so I kept in touch with them, and they became my mentors. I reached out to a lot of either former coaches, current coaches, just to mentor me through the interview process. I got my name out wherever possible. Basically tried to interview at whatever job was open. I luckily landed at Rutgers University, which is part of the Big Ten, one of the best conferences in women's lacrosse. Also about 35 minutes from my hometown. So I was lucky to come back to New Jersey for 3 years. I worked under Laura Brand, who was a phenomenal head coach. Mentored me a lot, taught me a lot about the sport, about just organization in general at the next level of the coaching world. So I spent 3 years there. I ended up transferring over to Arizona State last summer. Actually got a call from Tim McCormick, who's phenomenal. He is my current head coach at Arizona State. He kind of gave me a call, asked if I was interested in interviewing, and just a little bit about me. I love the warm weather, as you could probably tell. I went to school at Florida. I just love the sunshine, palm trees. You wake up every day and see the sun. You can't have a bad day. So was very fortunate to get the opportunity to interview with him, and then ended up getting offered the job, accepted the job last July. And then ever since, I've been at Arizona State and am absolutely in love with the Sun Devil athletic department, and Tempe, Arizona is not a bad place to be at all. And like I mentioned, it's a destination spot. So just really excited to start to grow the sport and to continue to work hard for ASU.
I love hearing that. And from some of our previous conversations, you've spoken about what you look for in girls and some of the core values of your team. Can you share that with everyone as well?
Yeah, so on our current team, we have a set of 4 core values. One of them is we over me, which is essentially just putting the team above yourself in every situation possible, whether that's the classroom, your social life, on the field, off the field, essentially just being a good teammate and putting your team first. So we definitely look for that in recruits. I kind of see this as more so I say I score a goal, get an assist, an unreal assist from one of my teammates. After that goal is scored, do I puff my chest out and think the end all be all, or do I run over to my teammate, give her a high five, a hug, whatever it may be, and kind of thank her for the pass? So I think that's just a great way to be a good teammate, and just your overall being on the field. How do you interact with your teammates? When we're at recruiting tournaments, this is kind of like how you act on the sidelines when you're off the field. So just being a good teammate in every single aspect and putting the team first. I think but the next one is just to compete every day. Like I said, we're all competitors, whether it's on the field, off the field, in the classroom, just trying to gain that edge in any possible way that you can, and just to compete. This is definitely what we look for in a recruit. Is she taking plays off, or is she the one diving to the end line to get that loose ball, to get the ball back for her teammates? So just competing every single day, no matter what the platform is. I want a competitor. The third core value we have is just to love the game. And if you're passionate about someone, as I am about lacrosse, as all of our girls are about lacrosse, it's not work. It's actually fun. And we want to make practice the most fun 2 hours of our girls' days. So just to show up, be passionate about what you do, give it your all, 110% every single day. And if you love what you do, like I said, you're not working, you're just having fun with your teammates. And then the last core value we have is to just focus on what you can control and control what you can control. So an example of this in recruiting is, say the ref makes a bad call, right? Nobody's perfect. Refs are going to have off days as well, have bad calls. Are you going to palms up the ref and say, what the heck are you thinking? Or are you just going to, all right, next play. So just focusing on what you can control. Also goes to the weather. Luckily in Tempe, Arizona, it's always sunshine. So you don't really need to no bad weather days there. But if it's raining, are we gonna kind of just put our heads down and sulk through practice, or are we gonna make the most of the rain? So just focusing on what you can control in any given situation and leaving the rest up to whoever else. So those are our 4 core values that our team has and that we definitely look for when we are recruiting.
I love hearing that, Nicole, and this whole conversation I love, obviously, and that's why it continues to come up. But the integrity that we all have to uphold ourselves to this high standard, and being surrounded by a group of women that allow you to achieve your excellence seems like the perfect place to be. How does a young woman or girl go about following her dreams, setting her goals, and then navigating to ultimately find a spot on a Division I roster or any collegiate roster for that matter?
I think you just got to be willing to put in the work, right? Never put your stick down, obviously, making sure that you're touching your stick at least once a day, whether it's 30 minutes, an hour, just to get the stick as an extension of your body. But I think like I mentioned before, there's no substitute for hard work. So if you're willing to put in the hard work, and I actually liked how you mentioned before, Patty said he writes down his goals every day. Have a weekly goal, have a goal for each month, have a goal for the year. What do you want to accomplish by the end of the year? And I think if you have that written down, it's something that you could look at every single day, and that's just something that you continue to work towards and for. And in the aspect of recruiting, just making sure again that you're playing every single day, whether it's by yourself on a wall, all you need is your stick, a ball on the wall, whether it's with one of your siblings, a teammate, a friend, whatever it may be, just continuing to play. Obviously staying in shape, that goes a long way as well. Our sport is very much running, but I think just making sure that you continue to play and putting yourselves in positions to be successful and also to be seen by college coaches. So right now we're currently in a dead period, so we can't actually get to any practices, games, tournaments, or whatever it may be due to the COVID. But just continue to play and have some film that you can send out, or whether that's in a practice setting with a team, whether that's just in your backyard, like little highlight film. Putting things together to show the college coaches that you are continuing to keep the stick in your hand, you are continuing to work hard, even though we've been in and out of this quarantine, and you are working diligently to get to that next level. So I think just doing whatever you can in whatever's in your control to continue working hard and getting better every single day. Compete every day, get better every single day.
And it sounds like if you're working hard, if you're doing the little things, if you're reaching out to a coach, you start to build up a relationship, and that gives you a better opportunity to actually join the team. Is that right?
Yeah, well, it depends, because actually until September 1 of your junior year of high school, we're actually not able to contact a recruit, a prospect. But after that, we have open communication. But go to your club coaches, through your club coaches, through your high school coaches, so they can actually be the point of contact for college coaches if you are younger than September 1 of your junior year. But as long as you're, like you said, you're diligent, you're putting in the work, it will speak for itself. There's no substitute for hard work.
And I can imagine that hard work is what's most important. If a young girl has a vision to get to that next level, she has to imagine it first of all. So having you in Arizona, making lacrosse, I like to say, let's make Arizona a hotbed.
A hotbed, exactly.
And I think that would be phenomenal. Do you have any ideas of how we do that and how we empower the youth in Arizona to continue to build and grow?
Yeah, I think it starts with just educating the kids, because similar to me, I mean, I grew up in New Jersey, so it was different, but I didn't know what lacrosse was. I was a softball player in the spring up until fourth grade. So just educating the younger kids and even the high school kids on the sport of lacrosse, the opportunities it can present you, the benefits of a sport, but also just being visible. And obviously right now it's an interesting time because you can't really host camps or do any sort of stuff like that just based on the pandemic. But getting out to camps or just going to practices, I think it starts with more so a smaller scale, and then you build it up to eventually get this community of lacrosse. But it definitely starts with the informational and educational piece on the benefits, what the sport is, and how it can really positively impact your life in the immediate and also 10 years ahead.
I couldn't agree more. I think education is the way that we start to realize, first of all, what we don't know, because no one knows what you don't know. It's kind of funny that's out there, but then when leaders come and share opportunities, perspectives, goals, and dreams, then it starts to become a reality. It starts to be something that you can accomplish. So I know there's been a big influx of powerful women coming to Arizona, sharing lacrosse and giving girls the opportunity to become successful. And we have to thank you, Nicole, for being a part of a great organization, and ASU as well for allowing it to be a pinnacle in Arizona. I think that's such a cool opportunity. Now, as you look at how lacrosse has affected your life, how do you see your own personal leadership style? And how does that correlate to coaching and all aspects of your life?
I think leadership style, I'm definitely a very passionate, hardworking, um, upbeat, optimistic leader. I think that helps me out in my coaching because I'm showing up to practice every single day with a smile on my face. I'm ready to get better. I know that it's going to be the best however many hours of my day. So I think that's also contagious. There's a lot of times, especially in these student athletes' lives in college, where they've been studying all night or they just had a long day of classes. They got a bad grade, so they're just not in the best mood showing up for practice. I think that just switching their brain, switching their mindset, and helping be that leader to do that, because we do a good job, I would say. Our girls do a good job of leaving everything off the field. And once you get on the field, it's just lacrosse and us getting better. But I think just being that motivator and being that encourager to like, hey, this is our goal, let's work towards it, and I'm going to help you get there. Because I think one of the biggest things about leadership is helping an individual or group reach their maximum potential, whether that's, like I said, on the lacrosse field, in the classroom, just in life, because ultimately we're preparing these girls for post-grad. You can only earn so much money in the lacrosse world, and the majority of these student athletes aren't choosing lacrosse to further their careers. They're doing something in sales or they're doing something in finance. So just ultimately preparing them to reach their maximum potential once they are alumni and off the team. But I think back to the leadership, sorry, I kind of sidetracked there, but I think just being that passionate leader and showing up every single day wanting to get better, that trickles down, and being a positive role model and leading by example. Our girls just follow suit. So I am lucky enough to have two phenomenal coaches that I work with and an unreal support staff who feel the same way. So it just works, and we just vibe well together with that. But I think just being that positive role model and, like I said, leading by example in everything that I do.
Nicole, and it sounds like you're a real servant leader, setting the right example, helping the girls, empower them to accomplish the goals that they ultimately want to do. And I continue to see that as a leadership style that works, and make sure that there's the right culture around the community that you're involved in. And it's nice to hear that our Sun Devils are under great leadership and working together. Is there anything that we can do to help you specifically or help the program at all?
I would say just continue to be a positive advocate for not only the sport in the state, but ASU as a whole, and just the ASU women's lacrosse team. We were actually trying to get the community out to one of our games this year. Unfortunately, the season was cut in half, but just continuing to be a positive advocate for the sport, because we need people like you to continue to just enforce the excitement around the sport. Because I think once you get a stick in a kid's hand, once I got a stick in my hand, it had such an impact on me. And I think that we can trickle that down to the younger kids and just even the high school kids. But just to continue being a positive advocate and just supporting the ASU program.
Nicole, you can count on me for that. I'm excited. I love the Devils, and we'll continue to push and strive and push forward. Moving forward, let me know how else we can help. We'll post things for your games and anything else we can do. Just pass me some PDFs or anything like that. But thank you so much for taking the time today to chat and share your story with our group and community. It really is making a huge difference, and I can't thank you enough.
Hey, well, thank you for having me on here, and thank you for all that you do for the sport.
Oh, my pleasure, Nicole. Have a wonderful day. Go Devils.
Heck yeah. Have a good one.
Take care.